Okay, the same complexity, everything, the same difficulty of questions, everything. Okay, but it is not a real exam. Like that, this mock word, if you see, similarly mock fire drill, if you see if you go to some companies, they arrange this mock fire drill. It is not a real fire accident. They create a kind of fire accident in the company so that all people will come outside the building and they gather at some place so that they will take some session on this fire drill, how this fire accident, how to prevent from fire accident, everything. So that is not a real fire drill. It is a mock fire drill. Okay, this kind of, and this mock has been, this mock, which is called mocking. So mockito also is came from this term. In mockito, if you see the mock is there is a word called mockito, right? So this mock has come from this. So that means it is not a real object, it is a fake object. Okay. See, what is the difference between real object and fake object is, I'll tell you. See, for example, what is a real object? Suppose I have a class, okay, class A, right? Now, when I say A equal to new A, this is a real object. So A is a real object of class A. Small a is real object of class A. Okay. Now, when I say like this, A1 equal to mockito dot mock of A dot class. So this is A1 is mockito object or mock object of class A. A1 is mock object of class C. Okay. So I'm having class A. When I say A equal to new A, this small a is the real object of class A. Now when I say A1 equal to mockito dot mock of A, A1 is the mock object of class A. So if you see how we are creating, this mock method is part of your mockito library. Using mockito class, you can using mockito class, we are calling this mock method. So for this A dot class, there will be a mock object that will be created. And this is not real object. So A1 is not real object. Right? A1 is not real object. Okay. So basically, what is actually this, how this mock object will work? Okay. Okay, now you see it. So this is not a real object. This is a fake object. I'll tell you now. Now when I have, just see, when I have class A, I have method 1. I'm having some system dot out dot println in method 1. Right? Now what I do now, I just create a real object. Okay, now when I say A dot method 1, I say like this. Now when I say A dot method 1, when I say A dot method 1, this will, so this is a real object. So when I say A dot method 1, now this method 1 will be called, and the logic inside this method is called. Okay, that means the method 1 of class A is called. Class A method 1 is called. And thereby method 1 gets executed. Okay, it's executed. Okay, the method one logic gets executed. Now suppose, now I'll write another scenario. Suppose I have class A. Now I have method one. Okay. Now I'll say system dot println of in method one. Right. Now I say now mark A1 is equal to mark it out dot mark of A dot class. Then I'll say A1 dot method one. Now what I'm doing, I'm saying now this is your mark object. If this is the real object, if this is the real object, this is the mark object. Now when I say mark object dot method one, now which will be called? You are thinking that this method will be called? No. So because this is a mark object. So only for the real objects, the real object only this method will be called, because A is the real object of class A, but A1 is a fake object of class A. So A1 is not a real object. This is not real object of class A. This is not real object of class A. This is a fake object of, right? So this is a fake object of class A. For fake objects, if you call any methods on that fake objects, the real methods will not be called. Okay. Now actually you are calling this method. Actually, this method is a real method, right? This method is a real method which exists. Real method means which exists actually. This is a real method. Now you are calling the real method on the fake object. Now it will not be called. This is a real method, right? And this is your fake object. This is your fake object. Okay. So you're calling the real methods on the fake objects. So if you call like this will not be called. Okay. So what it will have is fake object on real methods. Okay. Or we can say this, real methods on fake objects, we can say. Real methods on fake objects will not be called. Real methods on fake objects will not be called. Real methods will only be called. Real methods will only be called. Will only be called on real objects. Okay, real methods will only be called on the real objects. But if you see here, this is a real object because you are creating using, this is how the Java way of creating the object. Now, when I say a dot method one, it will call the real method. So real methods will be called on real objects only. Okay. So real objects. So real methods will be called on the real objects. Then on which methods will be called on fake objects then? So fake methods will be called from the fake objects. Fake methods will be called on fake objects. Okay, real methods will only be called on real objects. Fake methods will be called on fake objects. That means when a fake object is trying to call a fake method, then that fake method gets executed. But how to create a fake method? How to create a fake method? This is the real method. This is the real method. How to create a fake method? That is that where using Mockito will create it. See, using Mockito, how we created fake object. See, this is how using Mockito, right? Using Mockito, we created a fake object or mock object, right? Like this. So using Mockito, we created fake or mock object. So similarly, using Mockito, we can create fake method also. Using Mockito, we can create fake method also. You know, what is the advantage of this? Why we are doing all this actually? Okay, what is the need? Okay, not what is the need for creating a fake method? Why? What is the need for creating fake method? Because fake object cannot call the real methods, so that's why we are creating fake methods. But what is the necessity for creating fake objects then, if that is the case? Okay, I'll tell you. As I told you, remember yesterday I told you one scenario. What is that scenario? I am writing a unit test code. Suppose there is a business method. Let me take like this. There is a business service. Say I call this as something like student service. Student service.java. Okay, I have like this. Now I have no class student service. Right? I have student service. Now from student service, okay. I'm calling. I have a method here. Okay, I have a method here. I have a method add students. This is a method actually. Right? Let me do. Let me write here actually. Now this is my student service. Java. I have now class student service. Right? Now I have a method called add students. Right? Now I'll check like I have a logic like I'm not writing the code here. I'm just writing it pseudo logic, dummy, to make you understand. Logic to check student percentage, student attendance, right? And student rank, okay, of last 2 years, okay, and all these. And if they are meeting your if student attendance is greater than 80%, if student percentage is greater than 80%, and student rank is below 5th rank in the last 2 years, you can meet that condition. Okay, if student percentage, student attendance, student rank of last 2 years, okay, is greater than certain number, we'll define that number like 80% or 90%. Then add the student data in the database. How will add? How will add means we'll call one more class actually. This will call one more class. So we have one more class called student DAO. Okay. And here I'll say add students. Okay. And here I have Hibernate or JDBC code to insert into database, into student table of database. Okay. So now this logic will insert into the database. We have a student table. Okay. And student table, and then we can have the data inserted. Okay. Student table, and this will connect to the database. So this will connect to the database and execute the query. Connect to database and execute the query. Okay. Now I want to, that means what is the meaning of this is, if I'm adding the data in the database means, that means I'm admitting the student. Okay. I'm admitting the student. That means if my student record is inserted in the database means I'm admitting the student based on the, say this is for a college application. Okay. This is a college related web application or college related app. So this logic, if student percentage, student attendance, rank, everything is greater than so and so values only, I'm inserting the data in database. That means I'm admitting. Otherwise, else I will just say, else student is rejected and student data is not inserted in database. Okay, this is what I do. Now I want to test now whether this add students method is working fine or not. So I have to test this. I want to write a unit test for this. I want to write unit test for add students method. So whether it is working fine or not. For that, what I do, I write a JUnit. Whenever I say unit test means it's a JUnit code, right? Now I'll go to JUnit code. Right? I write JUnit. So in this, what I do, I write a test method, right? I write a test method, add students test method. Here, what I do, I define input, right? Then I define expected output. Right? I define expected output. That means I define input, then define expected output, then get actual output. Okay, then compare expected and actual. This is what the normal test case, right? Normal for any test case, it is the general way. Now I'll define an input, some input like student ID, some dummy test data. In the test code, I'll not create the real data. Always remember. In the test code, you'll create only the test data. That is a dummy data or some test data. Okay. I define some student input, which is not real, only the test data I have. I'll define some test data. Okay. And I'll define some expected output. I know that this add student will return some integer value. That means if a record has been inserted means, say this method is returning some integer value. Okay. So if the record is returning one, this method is returning one value means your record has been successfully inserted. If it returns 0 means your record is inserted 0. So what I'll do is in my test data, I'll pass two ways actually. One test data I'll pass where percentage of students, okay, where percentage is 50%. So next is attendance is 50%. I pass in the input actually. Okay. Like this I'll pass. Now, definitely my expected output will be 0. Okay. Here, when I say certain number means say 80% here. This is 80%. So my percentage, my attendance should be greater than 80%, but I pass input as 50%. So definitely this will not go to the database. So student is rejected and student data is not inside database. So my expected output is 0. Okay. And I'll call the actual output. I call the actual output. Actual output means when I say actual output, what I do in actual output, I create an object, real object of the student service. Student service, real object. Okay. Equal to new student service. Okay. I call the real object of student service. Then I say service dot add students. Okay. And I pass the required input to this. Okay. I'm not writing the code. I'm passing the required input. Okay. Now this will return some value int actual output. Right. So definitely this input, whatever I'm passing is 50% only. Okay. Your actual output now will be 0. Okay. Now your expected output and actual output are compared, and then your test case is passed. Okay. This is one test case. Okay. Now I will write one more test case. I mean, what I'll write, I mean, I'll change the data. No, in that same test case, now I'll change the data. Now instead of percentage is 50 or attendance 50, now I'll say percentage is, now I'll say percentage is 90. Your attendance percentage is also 90. Is 90. Attendance percentage is also 90. Now, what will be my expected output? Now, this time not 0, right? There will be one record because I'm confident that the student will be admitted. I'm confident that the student will be admitted. So definitely I'll get one record inserted in the database. Now I call the actual output. When I call the actual output, now that will call this method, right? That will call this method. And now it will execute this logic. Now it will check now whether the percentage is greater than 90. Yes, it is greater than 80%. Now, if it is greater than percentage, now it will call the add student data. Now this logic gets executed. And then you are getting, now this logic gets executed. And now a record got inserted in the table. A record got inserted. See what record? Some test record, right? Test record got inserted in the table. This is not a real student record. This is a test record. This is not a real student record. This record came from this test, this JUnit code. Okay. That was now the problem. So for testing this code, we are unnecessarily inserting the test record in the original table. This is your original student table, where it contains the actual students' records coming from your application. But we are inserting the test records from this method because of this logic. Now, what to do? This is where your Mockito comes. This is where your Mockito comes. Okay. You know, I'll tell you where this Mockito comes. Now, what I'll do, you know, now I'll write a test code now. I will write a test code. Okay. Now, where my problem is when I call the actual output, right? Now I create the service class, that is student service. Service is equal to new student service, right? And I'll say service dot add student, and I pass some test data here, right? Now where this is going, this call is going to your service class, your student service class. So this call is going to the student service class. So here I have add student. I mean, this call is going to this method actually. Student service class, students, add student. Here I have some input to be passed. And then here I have the conditions. If so percentage greater than 80. Okay, percentage of attendance, percentage of marks, everything. I'm writing that. I'm not writing the complete code. I'm just giving an idea. Percentage of marks. Then call student DAO. Student DAO method. Right? And the student DAO method, what is this method? Call method of student DAO object. I'll say. Call method of student DAO object. Right? So that means this will be called student DAO means this one. Call add students method. Let's say add students method of student DAO object. Now I'll say here class student DAO. And here I'll say public void add students also. Right? And here I'll have the JDBC code, JDBC or Hibernate code, right? To insert the data in the database. Right? Now what I'll do, this is your database. With the help of Mockito, I will make this object as a mock object. So with the help of Mockito, we will make student DAO as mock object. Right? Similarly, we'll also make now when I make this as a mock object, now the call will not go here. For mock object, as I told, the mock object will not call the real method. Now what I do now, with the help of Mockito, I create fake method for this. So with the help of Mockito, we will create fake method or mock method, fake or mock method that works like real method add students. When I say real method that works like, when I say like works like, not actual working. Okay, that works like. So fake method or mock method. See, this real method is a JDBC logic, right? But the fake method will not have any JDBC logic. Okay, remember the real method, this add students. The real method add students will have JDBC logic to connect to add students of student DAO class. Of student DAO class will have JDBC logic. But fake method add students, okay, will not have JDBC logic, but we can create or we can simulate that logic without connecting to database. So that is what we do. Okay, now we mock method. Similarly, we create mock object. Now, when I say mock object dot mock method means, now see, it is like this. Real method dot real object means that real method will be called. right? Real method, if you see here in this scenario, if you see in the real scenario, real method, say real object dot real method means this real method is called. That means this real method is called, right? This is called. Real method is executed. Now, when I say mock object dot mock method, okay. So now this mock method is executed. Mock method is executed, right? And real method in this example, real method in this example has this JDBC logic. Real method in this example has JDBC logic, right? And mock method will not have JDBC logic. This will not have JDBC logic. Okay, that means so that your database will not get disrupted. But simulate the exact behavior. So, but simulate the without JDBC logic, this mock method will have similar functionality as a real method, but without JDBC logic. Okay, we can create like that. We can create like that. So this will not have JDBC logic, but simulate like real method. I'll show you that how we can create. So we can create like this. So this will not have JDBC logic, but simulate like real method. Now what will happen? Now you see, now I call student service.add student. Now this logic gets executed. Now when it comes to here, now this is not real object. This will be your mock object. So when I say mock object dot mock method, that will not call here. That will not go to this class. If this is not going to this class or this method means it is not connecting to the database. So here itself, okay, here itself, the mock method logic gets executed. Okay, I'll show you that, and thereby returns the response. So thereby you can test this method. You can test this method without connecting to the database part. You can test this method. You are testing. So we are testing the student service method. So what we are doing is we are testing the student service method, okay, by passing mock object of student DAO and calling mock method of student DAO in the student service class. So that is how we are testing this complete method by passing this as a mock object and mock method. So that mock object, when I call mock object dot mock method, that will be called without calling this. Okay, this you will be getting clear with an example. Okay, I'll show you this example, but the idea of Mockito is this one. Why we are creating mock methods and mock objects means we can actually avoid this execution. We can avoid this execution, and we can only test this part. By, and how we can actually control this logic without calling the real student DAO object. We can call the mock student DAO object and test it. Okay, so we can control this logic, this part, without calling the real student DAO object and calling the mock student. We can test this. So that is where your Mockito will be helpful. And you will get clear tomorrow with with an example. And what is the purpose to avoid this student DAO class? Because Unnecessary when we call the test data, so that will go to the student DO class, insert the test data. Unnecessary, we are testing this. In the real database, we are inserting this dummy test data. Whatever the input that is coming from your test code is your test data, not your real data. I mean, not your actual business data. So that is why we have to avoid this. We have to avoid this logic in connecting to the database when connecting from the test code. So you might be wondering how we will pass the mock object in this existing business logic and how we can create the mock method. Okay, these are some confusion terms you have, but when you see practicals, it will be understood. So you might be wondering how how to create a mock object, right? I told you just now. I told you. So this is how we can create a mock object. This is how we can create a mock object. Now you might be wondering how we can create a mock method. And when I call mock object dot mock method, how that mock method gets executed. And in this service class, okay, this is the real object, right? In place of real object, how we can pass the mock object, all that you will see. Okay. So practically, we are going to see that. So practically, so we are going to see how to create a mock object method, and pass mock object into the service class. So that service class will call the mock object, will call in, okay, service class inside. Okay. We are going to see that. So here, so how practically we are going to see how to create mock object, right? Next, and pass mock object, mock method, pass mock object to service class, so that inside service class, it will call mock object, mock method, or it will call mock object method. Okay, instead of real method, instead of real object method. So we're going to see practically, you'll understand. We're going to see how to create mock object, mock method, pass mock object to service class here into this class. So that inside this service, inside this class only, right? We are calling the real object this. Now in place of this, we'll call mock object, so that call will not go to this logic. Everyone understood the concept behind mocking, the concept behind the mock object, why we are going for mocking. Any doubts, any questions? Okay. Where is the real object I wrote? Where is the real object I wrote here? Where? Where I wrote the real object? Where I wrote the real object here? I did not see anywhere here real object. All right then. So tomorrow we are going to see practicals of this. It will be more clear for you. Okay. So tomorrow we are going to see practicals of this. It will be more clear for you. Okay then. So thank you all. See you tomorrow then. Thank you all. See how to download means you just go here. You just click on here. Now just click on this. You'll get a zip folder. You can just click on here, or we can say like this. Just 1 minute. You can just say why I'm not able to download. So you can now get this. Here you can download, you see. Here you can open the new tab and you can download here. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to explain how that mock object and real object are getting differentiated also. Okay. All right then. Yeah, tomorrow we'll see then. Thank you all.
Recording stopped.